Hello, I'm Brother Taylor. Today I'd like to talk to you about être verbs, le passé composé avec être. Most verbs, as I said in the other video about passé composé, most verbs are conjugated with avoir, but there are a few verbs conjugated with être. These are the verbs that you should know that are conjugated with être. Aller, retourner, tomber, passer, monter, passer par, monter, dans, rester, arriver, entrer, and rentrer. Rester means to stay. Arriver, to arrive. Entrer is go in, to go in, enter in, literally. Rentrer means to go back home. This is to go, to return, to fall down, to pass by or through. So, the verb aller is by far the most important of these verbs. It's probably what I call a top 5 verb in the French language. It's used all the time. Very, very important verb. So, for example, if I want to say I went, you say je suis allé. Now, this means I went, I have gone, or I did go. So, je suis allé, tu es allé, il est allé, elle est allée, nous sommes allés, vous êtes allés, ils sont allés, elles sont allées. Again, je suis allé, tu es allé, il est allé, elle est allée, nous sommes allés, vous êtes allés, ils sont allés, elles sont allées. You don't necessarily need to make this one. Vous êtes allé, you can also just say. I was doing a lot of these liaisons here. It's really what they call a liaison facultative. It's optional. If you want to speak kind of more formally, you would make it. Otherwise, but it's not necessary. You could just as easily say je suis allé, tu es allé, il est allé, nous sommes allés, vous êtes allés, ils sont allés, elles sont allées. Although I generally like to make that T, but that is possible if it's a very familiar setting. Okay, so let's talk about how to negate these. So elle est allée. Oh, first of all, notice how this E agrees with this subject. With etre verbs, the past participle agrees with the subject. So it's a compound tense, meaning you have a helping verb, auxiliary verb, plus a past participle. With etre verbs, when they're conjugated with etre, and they're part of the house of etre, I should say, you have this E here that agrees with the subject. Notice there's no E here because this is masculine. With masculine, you don't change it. With feminine, you have to add an E. Notice here, it can be masculine or feminine depending on who the you is. Like if I'm speaking to a girl, tu es allé, I would add that E. It doesn't change the pronunciation, by the way. It's just for when you're writing. So je suis allé depends on who I am. If I'm a man, je suis allé is correct. If I'm a woman, then I would add that E, and it would be discernible in writing, not in speaking, interestingly. Now notice there's always an S here with nous. Why is that? Because with we, we went or we did this, it's always plural. Now it could be feminine plural, but it's not. It depends on who we represents. If it's males and females together, it's just this, no E. If it's all girls, it's ES. This could be feminine singular, or it could be masculine singular, feminine singular, or it could be masculine plural or feminine plural, depending on the context. Remember that vous is you, but it could be either a you singular or a you plural. It could be you singular meaning formal, right? Professeur, vous êtes allé à Chicago, par exemple. Could mean that, or mes amis, vous êtes allés, with an S, vous êtes allés à Chicago. Notice here, this is feminine plural because the subject is feminine plural. Here it's just masculine plural because this is masculine plural. There's no extra E here. So she went to Chicago is elle est allée à Chicago. She didn't go, or she didn't fall down is elle n'est pas tombée. Notice tombée is on our list of etre verbs. If it's not on this list, quite often, probably it's an avoir verb if you're taking the test. There are other etre verbs that I won't test you on, but these are some of the most common verbs. Good. So remember again that these rules, these are rules of agreement, apply to any etre verb, okay? But they do not apply to avoir verbs. One example is this. Elle a parlé. She spoke. Okay? Elle est restée. She stayed. Notice the difference. There's no extra E here with avoir, but there is an extra E because with etre verbs you make these agree. Notice here there's not an extra E because it's an avoir verb. Okay? Really important to understand that. So could be even if I put this in the plural, elles sont restées, they stayed, they spoke. Notice there's no yes, no E, nothing here. With avoir, there's no agreement. The subject doesn't make anything agree with avoir verbs. Okay. Now, avoir verbs almost always take a elle a parlé français. Elle a parlé français. What did she speak? French. They almost always have an object, avoir verbs. Etre verbs don't need an object. They stayed. You don't have to say anything else. You could mention where they stayed. They stayed at home or something, but you don't have to. With etre verbs, you don't really have to have any. They don't have objects. They're just actions. So, for example, she fell down. Notice, elle est tombée. You don't need. There's no object. She fell down. What? You don't. That doesn't work. That's not necessary. But if I have a verb like this, an avoir verb, elle a fait. She did. You know, if I have she did, usually she did something, right? So with avoir verbs, they have direct objects. Elle a fait ses devoirs, for example, it's your homework. Because you're always, with avoir verbs, you're almost always begging the question of what the object is. So she did, you can't just say she did, you have to say she did something. With etre verbs, there is no something, they're just places where an action could occur. And really, so for example, she went to Chicago. This is just a place she went to. It's not the object. You would never say, what did she go? You could say, where did she go? And this is just kind of a place where she went. It's not an object of this verb. So etre verbs, the philosophy behind etre verbs is that they're actions and they don't take objects like avoir verbs do. Avoir verbs need an object. And avoir verbs generally answer the question, what? Could be who, but so she did, so you can't just say she did, you have to say she did what? Her homework, right? So that's just kind of a general philosophical difference between etre and avoir verbs. Avoir verbs need a direct object. Etre verbs of the house of etre generally don't take objects. And they can be used with prepositions like à Chicago or whatever, what have you. So, thank you.